Love to see it. Some scuffed action right off the bat. Welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Dark Portal. Dark Portal, episode 17. As you can see, my man Staysafe in the top left, Nano in the top right, and Crix, of course, in the bottom left, just looking like their true selves in their final form. We'll get that fixed up for you in a second, guys. Welcome back. We got some big guests here. Big monstrous episode today. Very, very excited. Let's start with a little powwow, just a little circle up. Before, though, I just gotta say, stay safe, man. I feel like I've known you for years, bro. It's been since, been years, man, since the P server days, and just it's crazy to see how far people have taken it, of like everyone, all the people, man. And I don't know, it's the first time I've ever been on stream with you, bro. It's cool to be here with you, man.
Yeah, it's the first time. I think one of my biggest regrets of streaming for the last full time is actually, you know what? Actually, literally today is my full-time 3-year streamer anniversary. Today is the day, actually. Anyway,
happy anniversary.
I guess that's something. I just looked at the calendar. Is my mic bad? Hello.
Yeah, Kargoz turned down. Nano, can you talk for a second, real quick?
Hello everyone. I'm Nano.
Oh wow, you gotta turn everybody down a little bit.
Down a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. You know how we do over here at Kargoz Gaming. Should be good now. Turn him down a bit. Congratulations.
It wouldn't be a Twitch podcast if it wasn't scuffed. So,
Chad, how do I sound? Am I good, Chad? Now, I was saying my one of my biggest regrets is kind of being such a loner for the last 3 years. I just always do my own thing, so it's regrettable that we haven't linked up sooner, and it's actually totally my fault. Though this is like 2 years ago now. I actually met Kargoz in London. We were casting the Mythic Eternal Palace retail WoW race for Limit, and so we never cast together, but we were both there and we saw each other all the time down there in London.
Yeah, that was cool, man. That was cool, and it's cool to hear your perspective on it. Yeah, it's just great to be here, man, and it's cool that Nano is here as well, because Nano is one of the Nostalrius legends. Like, we wouldn't even have this game if it wasn't potentially for this fine human being. So kind of all the pieces are here. Some people who have been content creators for years and years. Nano, just great to be here with you all. Nano, how are you, bro? It's been a couple years, man.
I'm good. I'm a little tired. My family had so the lights behind me have like a disco setting, so we had like a family dance party before bedtime, and then I had to rush the kids to bed to get onto the podcast in time. So I'm a little tired, but I'm here and excited to talk with these fine gentlemen about some Burning Crusade.
Absolutely. Lord Crixus.
Oh!
How you doing, brother?
Turn down Staysafe and Nano just a little bit more.
Okay, will do.
You're still kind of loud. I'm probably still loud too, but I think we're good. I'm doing great, bro. I'm just hyped the shit up, bro. Beta testing was fun as shit. You were with me, bro. Fun. All 4 of us did some beta testing. We'll talk about it later, I'm sure.
Yep.
I'm just hyped, man. I'm kind of like, beta kind of feels dead now. It already felt dead, but like, it feels like there's nothing really to do on the beta anymore.
So that's kind of the purpose of this, guys. I feel like I almost want to say the meat and potatoes of the beta is behind us, maybe. They could do some PvP testing, you never know, but we just recently got to see all the Tier 4 content. Karazhan, Mags, Gruels. And this is a bit of a roundtable for us to come together as a community and just kind of reflect on what just happened. How's the game looking? Is it looking good? Is it looking bad? Any concerns? Any issues? So on and so forth. Let me just ask as a general thing, though, have you guys had fun with the beta so far?
I'll go first. I think the beta has been very fun. I actually, sort of going into the beta, knew it was not going to be as fun as the classic beta was 2 years ago, but the TBC beta has been very fun. I think this is more of a actual beta test. Hey, we have bugs, please report them, more so than a promotional piece. I think the classic beta was really, first and foremost, a promotional thing, though there were bugs that were reported as well. But, the hype has been way less for this one. But I think that's just kind of the nature of the thing. I think the big hype for the vanilla beta or the classic beta was that no one had unless you've been playing on a private server, no one had seen those zones or those dungeons for a very long time, like since Cataclysm came out. So a lot of people had never seen them because they started after Cataclysm. But with the TBC content, if anyone is curious what the TBC zones were like or the TBC dungeons were like, you can go back and do those dungeons and do those zones pretty faithfully as they were back in the day, but with retail abilities and retail itemization. So I think that mystique is a little bit less for TBC, but this has been a very fun beta regardless. I do really think they should do some PvP testing. There's still some PvP issues. Like, for example, in the beta, for whatever reason, only Horde can queue against Horde in Alliance versus Alliance, which is not how, like... I don't know exactly what the deal is with that, but then there's also the issues with certain class abilities that need to be fixed. Eye of the Storm, who knows what's going to be wrong with Eye of the Storm, or the, maybe the Burning Crusade version of Alterac Valley, which gets a big overhaul, right? So I think they should have like a week of PvP testing where it's instant 70 server. They give you the blue PvP gear and some free gems and free shit, and then some free stuff. And just let us have that for 7 days. But I think you're right. You're very right that I think the beta is kind of wrapping up. The raid testing is done. I feel like they've had a bunch of people level up and do the dungeons, but who knows where we're at.
I still think there's more to come for the TBC beta. We're still in the closed beta phase, right? And there's always an open beta phase, and then there's stress tests and stuff like that. So I would imagine, if I was Blizzard, which I'm obviously not, but if I was Blizzard, I would, when they went to open beta, open up this instant 70 server, and then just let people have at it, right? Get into PvP, do Eye of the Storm over and over again, do arenas, like just get a bunch of information quickly from that, and that's the best way to go, right? You don't want people to be spending all their time leveling on an open beta. So just give them the instant 70, let them have at it for a week or two. Then I think we're done with TBC beta. But I agree, there's not much to do on the beta, right? I could run heroics to get gear that I'm gonna end up doing in 2 months anyway on a beta I'm not even sure I'm gonna keep. So like, and there's nobody even queuing for PvP except for like the same two guys that I don't want to face over and over again. So what's the point at this stage?
I agree. That's why I think that beta is like, getting close to being done, right? I had fun in beta though. Beta itself though, I had a blast. I think I'm coming from private servers where I don't have to do about illegality of it, or if that's even a word, or just the bugs and stuff. It's nice not having as many bugs and seeing what the game's going to be at while we play it. I've had a blast. At the same time, I want something to do too. So, and I do think they're going to open up tasting for PvP.
Safe to say, Crix has been one of the number one hype men of the beta so far. Just promoting it and getting it out there. Your energy about TBC is huge, man. Also, basically everything Nano said, it's you really take that to heart. Nano's been like basically a trusted informant of the community. Looking back on things, he's had a lot of he's had a lot of tweets that you may recognize him from, and I want to say almost all of them came true, man. So I have a feeling there might be something
maybe
up
not all of my
still.
predictions came true, but we're still on track. So TBC's coming out relatively soon. Not quite as soon as we all thought, but we're moving that direction.
Yeah. So I think Staysafe had a pretty great take on why the beta maybe wasn't or isn't as hype as maybe some people thought it was going to be. Like, there was something very magical about that first classic beta. I think a small part of that might have been the mystique of fresh too. People had to start new characters, right? And like, you were running these dungeons for the first time. You hadn't even seen the old world in so long. People are kind of just graduating their characters. Leveling on 1x can be pretty brutal in TBC as well. I don't know if a lot of people were prepared for that. Also, they would have to do it again in another couple months. But I think a lot of people in the chat, if you asked them 3 months ago, right, you said, will TBC Classic be more popular than Classic WoW? I want to say 80% of those people would say, hell yeah. TBC, the game was still ramping up. Wrath, it was at its peak. TBC is going to be huge. What do you guys still believe that to be true?
TBC is going to be bigger than Classic? Yeah.
Yeah. Peak subs and players?
Yeah, I hope that I'm not biased, but Arena, you have for instance, you have like Rookie, they were doing the raid testing. They weren't doing anything in the Classic beta.
What do you think, Staysafe?
I don't know actually. I don't think it's going to come close to the initial Classic hype period. So like the first month or so of Classic, I don't think the player base is going to be the same for TBC as it was for Classic, just because, again, the novelty of it, that people were willing to spend $15 for a month and see what this thing was about. And then if it wasn't for them, then they left. Now, Classic has a really stable player base at this point, and still, like, Classic by itself is like one of the biggest MMOs in the entire market. and we're talking about a 2004 game. But TBC, I don't know. I think that especially this first phase, I think it's going to be pretty slow for a lot of people because there's just not that much content out there. There's a 10-man raid, there's 3 25-man bosses, and there's arena. Now, compared to phase 1 of Classic, you might say that's more, but there's a lot of hype around just the leveling part of Classic that TBC doesn't have. So I don't know. It could be, but I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I think it's kind of nuanced. It's kind of weird. I don't think that TBC launch hype will come anywhere near Classic WoW launch hype, because I think Classic WoW pulled in a bunch. I think it was so hyped up and so monumental. It's such a crazy phenomenon, Classic WoW releasing. I think it pulled in so many non-endemic players, meaning people that didn't or hadn't played WoW in a long time or maybe ever. I don't think TBC has that same appeal. That being said, out of the current Classic player base and people that are going to try TBC, I think TBC will have a stronger tension and stranglehold on those players. And I think it'll keep those people that are already into WoW satisfied and logging in on a higher frequency. But I don't think it has that pull. I mean, you had like people like Ninja try Classic WoW. You had like all these like Pokimane tried Classic. Is that going to happen for TBC? Yeah, probably not. But I think TBC is really going to deliver to people that are into World of Warcraft, that are into Classic WoW. It's really going to be a home run for those people.
Yeah, for the content creators, like those, like you think of like retail content creators, a lot of the time you think of these arena players, like you mentioned Vinruki and Zico and, you know, or like Sea-Doo and these kind of guys that end up being in retail because arena is this endless fountain of content for them. And so I could see them sticking around, or at least popping back into TBC more frequently than they did for Classic, because there is content that will satisfy their stream viewers. And anytime you have content creators, a number of them playing any game, it drives traffic, it drives an audience to play that game. So there is potential there for sure that arena keeps the game more active, at least on the Twitch community, than Classic has ended up being. Because right now Classic is just like, oh, somebody's doing a speed run, so now we're gonna go watch this guy do a speed run, and then that's, or you know, the personality streamers that you watch to play Classic, but that's pretty much it.
Interesting points. I'm a bit conflicted, guys, because I think we've moved the needle a bit with Classic. The average player, even speaking for myself, man, like we've gotten better, we've gotten sweatier, we've gotten more knowledgeable about the game. And it's a type of thing that I think back to Classic, I think about the genesis of it, I think about watching those old school private chat VODs on YouTube and listening to people talk about the game and talk about gold making in such a simple way, and like just the whole Nostalrius arc, the announcement at BlizzCon, it was like kind of just like simpler times, and it almost feels like there's no going back. Like we're so sweaty now, we're so like, you know, we're so go with the game. And like it's what you said, Staysafe, though. Like when you're on that wavelength, though, TBC does a better job at providing you more content to just like be on that wavelength on, right? There's more you can sink your teeth into. Arena's this endless fountain, like you said. And I do think TBC strikes a great balance between the old school boomer Classic WoW and then the new color palette of retail WoW. Like it might be a happy medium and bring a lot of people together. But at least IMO, the beta and hype has been a bit lower than I anticipated. Crix, you have anything to add on this?
I kind of, now that you say it, I feel like you said people play Classic. I think people will try TBC and stick with it more than how people tried Classic and never came back for the reasons that you guys already named. People will come play the game and stick with it. I think there's going to be more eyeballs on TBC as well, just because of all those arena, not just those arena guys, but those arena guys. They're going to stick through here. They're going to have their viewership. You know, TBC. I don't know. I didn't like TBC. Yeah. I mean, Classic, so maybe I'm just biased, but I don't know. I don't think
the beauty of TBC is it keeps the same Classic feel, right? The same mindset, and how you approach an MMO, and it just tunes it better, right? The fights, especially once you get into Tempest Keep and Kael'thas and Black Temple and then Sunwell, like the raid fights are much more interesting for them than the vast majority of Classic fights. So for the raiding side, that's interesting. And Arena is this, like I said, endless fountain of content that you can go to. Even as just a player, right? I want to log on and do Arena with my team. Like that's something that you can always do every single night. where that doesn't exist in Classic, right? And so it is a much more refined, I think, in a lot of ways, interesting version of Classic. And at least for a lot of us who are private server veterans, right? I started my first private server in 2011, so I've been playing Classic WoW in various versions on various private servers for 10 years at this point. And it's like, okay, I'm ready for TBC, because there was never really a TBC private server that was like the best, like everybody's going to go play this. There was no nostalgia of the TBC private world. It just didn't exist. And now there's an experience that's new, but still keeps the same classic feel that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, it's a great...
I'll talk about it. Sorry, I want to talk about it from the streamer point of view too. Classic WoW is, like, I'll say pretty objectively not a good game to stream. It is a very hard game to stream. That's why you saw a lot of streamers start Classic WoW, give them 2 months, they're like, yo, this is a pain in the ass to try to stream this game, because you're oftentimes incentivized to not play your character via world buffs, PvP or world events. You're incentivized, and often like other players will tell you, hey, don't stream this. We don't want you streaming our world buffs. We don't want you streaming our world PvP. So you actually suffer a lot from streaming as far as competitive gameplay goes, like ranking or world PvP or world bosses. And then there's also the PvE aspect, where I think like I love watching speedruns. I watched a progress speedrun the other day. It was badass. I'm like, I don't watch sports in real life, but I have like my favorite Classic WoW guild. I like to watch them. It's badass. I'm like a fan of speedrunning, right, of the scene. And like, you know, half the time these guys can't even play their characters because they're raid logged, waiting for the next world, for the next speed run. And then 2, they can only do one or two, each guild only does 1 or 2 speed runs a month, right? Because you have to do it around DMF. Whereas in TBC, if that's what you want to do, or you're trying to do a parse run, you can do it any week. There's no restrictions. If you're a guild and want to do it that week, you do it that week, right? So it's way and then I think just the content itself, the nature of the raids, and not even raids, heroic dungeons also, it's really as a viewer on Twitch, it's way more fun to watch an SSC raid than a Blackwing Lair raid. Like, hands down, right? It's way more fun viewing experience. And then heroics are awesome too. Heroics are badass. I'm sure we're going to see, you know, like heroic dungeon speedruns and heroic dungeon speedrun competitions. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited for what... I think WoW is at its best, and I think Classic was at its best when there was a bunch of community-driven events, like the Tips Out tournaments and stuff like that, where it generates this kind of, what's the right word? Just like, almost like news, right? There's something going on in this world, and I think that's when WoW is at its best. Even retail, like with the Race to World First, that's when retail is at its best, is when there's something going on that matters and it's timely. And so I'm excited to see how the community takes TBC and turns it to do that. And hopefully Blizzard gives everybody the tools to be able to do that, right? Like maybe even like a tournament realm or something like that, to do something like our own version of an MDI, right? Just give us the tools to be able to do it, and then let us run with it. Because I think it's to Blizzard's benefit, because it's going to draw an audience, it's going to draw eyeballs, and eventually players.
That's a great... I think you hit the nail on the head with one thing. Just more community support from Blizzard. Now, I do a crappy job of reaching out to them. I never really reach out to them because I don't feel like I can, you know, but it would be cool for Blizzard to do things like that. A tournament realm, or maybe a PTR where, you know, these guilds are talking about Staysafe. Maybe they could run speed runs whenever they want because it was supported by Blizzard, and they would give them the consumes. They would give them the sandbox, the tool to make that content, and everybody can watch it and get excited about it. A whole big X factor with Arena, I'm curious, chat, let us know how you feel about this too, is how popular TBC Arena will be. I've recently fallen in love with it, to be honest with you. It's been a while since I've played any Arena. And I think there's a lot to sink your teeth into. I was interviewing AzzyGod, who streams WD2's or Warriors Ruin on Twitch a lot, and asked him, you know, he's hit Gladiator in multiple iterations of the game, and I asked him what attracts him to TBC PvP in particular, and he was just saying it goes back to the fundamental, the essentials, the bare bone roots of Arena, of just exchanging cooldowns. It's a bit slower paced, a bit more chess-like, just clean CC chains, and he's right, man. He's right. It's so satisfying, and there is a lot of depth to it, but I don't know how popular it's going to be. I hope it's popular, and it could have the potential to carry TBC more than anything else. But okay, well,
I agree.
I want to add on to, like, it's You look at retail streams, the biggest retail streams are arena streamers, right? So I think definitely, once the dust settles, TBC's been out for 2 or 3 months and the hype is kind of gone. And now just like people are playing the game, right? Just like every day people are logging in to play the game. I think probably look at the Twitch section, arena streams are probably going to be the biggest. You saw those Shadowlands too. When Shadowlands came out a couple months ago, what were the biggest, most crazy Shadowlands streams? They're arena streams, right? So I think watching arena players go is really amazing. I've talked to some of the retail arena guys about this, and this is my concern. I think that maybe TBC Arena might be too slow for some of those guys. Like if you're a retail arena guy and you're super hyped for TBC Arena, it is a very different pace. That's like you mentioned that, Kargoz. It's a very different pace. So there is like a huge. It's like as you said, he said it's a big distinction between the two versions. So I guess it's like a preference issue, right?
Mm-hmm. I think those guys end up going and doing double DPS 2s, right? Because those games can't necessarily be that slow, right? And so you'll see like Peekaboo and Venruki or whatever, like Rogue Mage 2s, because that is really interesting, right? Just like how they're going to manage the cooldowns, how they're going to stay alive against whoever it is. I think that's where those players will go. I don't think that you'll end up seeing a lot of the like AWC competitive guys end up playing as much TBC Arena, because unless there is some sort of Blizzard run tournament with some prize pools, because obviously it's their jobs, and so they have to put in the hours to be as good as they are. Like, so you're not going to see like Mez, Trill, and Sea-Doo probably as much in 3s TBC Arena doing Warlock, Warrior, Druid or something like that, but I think you'll see a lot of double DPS 2s for sure in Arena, because that's always going to be interesting and fast.
Yeah, I'm concerned Blizzard's not going to do it. I don't know if they believe in it enough, or if they think it's going to be, advantageous to support the arena scene. Maybe they just don't see it taking off. But that's maybe where we come in. We get the prize pool, the talking head streamers. We come in, we try to organize it. It would be so exciting to build that rivalry amongst the private server heroes versus the new age BlizzCon champs, and they're playing each other, and streamers are playing each other in 2s and 3s, and there is that excitement, that energy. It'd be cool to build it out, man. It'd be cool to build it out. I'll tell you what, as someone who loves classic World of Warcraft, who loves old school legacy WoW, I'm so excited that we finally have this almost esports type thing where people can go and demonstrate skill. And there's something, because people like to make fun of classic WoW, right? I'm sure you might see it in your chat sometimes. Stay safe, since you do stream retail as well. Like, people think it's, for boomers and stuff like that. Now we have something high speed that we can play, and it can be like respected on the PvP side. But anyway, all right, guys. What are your current concerns with TBC as it stands? Just opening it up on a broad sense. We see what happened with the beta. There's a blue post which we can go over in a second. There's got to be a lot of concerns going through your mind. What are they? I have some myself. Anybody just jump in.
Concerns of what?
Just concerns over the success of TBC. Is there anything that is developing in a way where you think it's bad for the game? Potentially a red flag is coming to mind. This could be disastrous, potentially. Okay. What?
Bots, right? Bots. Typical.
Oh, bots.
I'm really quiet. Whoops. Yeah, I would say bots. Boosts. Yeah, I guess. Gold selling, gold buying, same thing. I guess that's gonna be I feel like maybe the same thing you worry about in Classic.
Well, yeah, I think it's all kind of the same things. Like, obviously, I think none of us are probably a fan of the 58 boost. I think it undermines the game a lot, or like the integrity of the in-game economy or sort of player experience. Not a fan. I think we're starting to witness a trend of increased monetization of these classic versions of the game. I think Blizzard sort of underestimated how successful Classic WoW would be, and they look back on the last 1.5 or 2 years of Classic, and they're like, "Crap, we missed a ton of money by not properly monetizing this game." So I think they say, "Okay, now maybe we're selling some collector's edition mounts, right? Maybe we're selling boosts. Maybe we're selling race changes, or they're going to load it up." I think I would bet 2 years from now, when we're looking at Classic Wrath of the Lich King, I bet we have gold token in the game by then. I'll put $1,000 now. I think in 2 years we have gold token in the game.
Didn't somebody find gold token in the beta or something? Anybody hear about that? Or
it was flagged for China only, and China currently already has the WoW token. But I mean, the pieces are there for them to put a WoW token in if they really wanted to. I don't think. I think the boosts thing is that the people who are most into Classic and are currently involved with Classic are the most vocal about being anti-boosts, which makes sense, right? because there's a skip that's involved there that we didn't partake in. But we also fully understand the impact of what boosts mean for the game, because it's not just somebody's now playing TBC and they didn't play Classic before. That's not just who's going to be using the boost. It's going to be people who want to get ahead on gold on their own and are creating these new accounts and getting a boost so they don't have to spend the time leveling up to 58 so they can get their new tailoring XMute bot, which is always going to just print them money every 2 days or whatever it is. And then that's not even including like the whole industrial bot farm that exists in both versions of WoW, but you just feel it more in Classic because the world is smaller and it's more integrated. So that's definitely a concern of mine.
Okay.
I'll tell you this. This is another thing. TBC is going to have to be so layered for probably the entire duration of the expansion. Like Classic WoW, that the Classic player base is split, first off, on day one between 6 different starting zones, right? You have Dunmoreau and Elwyn Forest, et cetera, and then there's 2 entire continents for players to split themselves amongst. Outland is really, really small. It's not a big place. And on day one of TBC launch, every single player is funneling through the portal into Hellfire Peninsula. They're going to have this continent layered probably for like 18 months. Seriously, I can't imagine otherwise.
I actually think that they did their first like unofficial stress test when they opened up the Instant 70 realm for Karazhan. And like I think we all were hopping on the server at the same time, and if you're in Shatrath, it was a slideshow in Shatrath. But the server didn't crash. Some people crashed DC'd on their own side, but the server didn't crash. So there was and it was also layered almost instantly. And so there was at least 2 layers going on the Instant 70 realm in order to get people not lagging in Shatrath. But there was 150, 200 people in Shatrath that I could tell. So that was like a mini stress test on its own just to see how it happened. But I imagine launch day is going to be like upwards of 20, 30, even 40 layers just in order for the servers to stay alive.
Especially if they do a dungeon cap.
Yeah, I think the dungeon cap is increased, at least it is on the beta. It's like 52 now instead of 30. So,
well, people were saying 50 for a long time, and then some guy I saw actually sat there, because it's annoying to test, right? Because you can do 5 per hour, so you have to sit there for 10 hours to see if it's actually 50 cap. Everyone kind of assumed, or everyone had like a friend of a friend who said it was 50, but I never heard anyone that tested it. Finally, someone tested it, and he had logs and he posted them on Reddit, and it's like, no, there's no cap. Like he did like 65 of them or something, and there was no cap. So, I don't know. That's a good question. Do you guys think there should be cap for the first couple weeks of TBC, or do you think they should just lift it entirely?
They're not going to layer it like crazy. They need to lift it. Don't force us to level in the open world and then have the open world be AIDS. In my opinion, I mean, obviously we're warlocks. We can live in sleep pens, but like everybody else.
Yeah, big shout out to Staysafe for figuring that out, dude. That was pretty insane. Yeah,
Curse of Exhaustion is our new best friend.
Right.
So, it's pretty insane what you figured out in sleep pens. But on that note, too, well, let me just put it this way, for whatever it's worth. TBC could come out tomorrow, as it is right now in the beta, and I'm having 11 out of 10 fun. Possibly the most fun I've ever had playing World of Warcraft. I have, I'm a grown-ass man now. We got friends. We have community. We have all this. It's going to be a great time. So don't take this like I'm, trying to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that, right? But there's a tweet that North the Mage, a few of you people might know who that is. He's gone into hibernation for the past year, but I just pulled it up. He said, given the opportunity, players will optimize the fun out of a game. Therefore, one of the responsibilities of designers is to protect the players from themselves. Let that marinate up top for a second. And think about this. Like, Classic WoW was illuminative. Like, people now look at the game, they look at World of Warcraft in a different way. Like, before we just looked at the game, we got to kill the boss, we got to get the loot, right? Now you're like, how can I manipulate the pathing so that I can kill 700 mobs at the same time? We're just on a different wavelength. We're like 5 heads now. Like, so does Blizzard, we're living in that hashtag some changes world. Do we want Blizzard to just go in there and just say, look, we're going to tweak this, we're going to tweak that, mobs can no longer, evade out? Are they going to just make the raids harder to prevent? What would that even prevent? Well, we'll get into that in a second. I don't know if anything comes to mind at all. Maybe nothing.
Well, a lot with Classic. Yeah. A lot comes to mind. The first thing, I think a lot of what we've seen in Classic WoW with like the dungeon boosting and 550 mob Maradon polls, and also I would say world buffs, I would categorize this gameplay as borderline exploitative gameplay behavior. Was this intended? Is this how, like, if you showed footage of people engaging with the game this way to the developers in 2006, 2007, or whatever, and said, is this how you want the game to be played? They would say, hell no. In fact, you can. I actually asked Kevin Jordan one time. I said, hey, what do you think about world buffs here? And he said, this is too much. World buffs are too much. Like, this is not how we envision people doing the content. We did not expect people to use, elaborate level 20 summoning alt networks to get every single world buff in the game within 2 minutes /played, and then log out, and then kill every single raid boss within 25 seconds and whatever. So yeah, I would categorize this stuff as borderline exploitative gameplay, and I think it was a mistake for Blizzard. I get Blizzard was in a weird spot, right, with Classic WoW, because it's like they heard the mantra, no changes, no changes, no changes. And then they also hear people like me being very vocal, or I'm sure you guys as well, saying, world buffs are terrible for this game. And like, hey, dungeon boosting like this is terrible for the game. You got to do something about it. And they're like, well, our hands are tied. Like, what do you, like, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. Like, there's going to be a huge demographic mad if we do and a huge demographic mad if we don't. Like, so what do we do? So I think their approach was, hey, hands off, listen, we're just going to opt out of this one and see how it plays out. And now in TBC, it is refreshing to see kind of the some changes thing. Like, I think in TBC, actually, technically, you could bring a Sunflower into a raid and stuff like that. Now there's an aura that if you zone into a raid, you lose every outer world buff zoning into a raid. See, that's a technical some changes thing, but it's still in the spirit of how the game was intended to be played, obviously, right? So very positive for that. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned like I've spent a ton of time like practicing and theory crafting slave pen solo warlock stuff. I'd be ecstatic if Blizzard nerfed that. I would also categorize that as exploitative behavior, borderline exploitative behavior. I don't think that's how the game should be played. But if it's there, you can't be mad at people for min-maxing it and taking advantage of it.
Don't hate the player, hate the game, man. It's the same thing with multi-boxing, having professionals. It's the same thing with a WoW token, with boosting for to make the shadow cloths and the spell cloths and the transmutes. It's the same thing with, the list goes on, fill in the blank, chat. There's a million more. It's the same thing of there's a boss with this much HP. We have spreadsheets and all these tools now. We're going to min-max, to the absolute nth degree. So maybe we make things harder so things stimulate us more. I wonder if it's time for Blizzard to roll up their sleeves and go, this is the nature of the beast in 2021. We kind of have to protect the players from their own sweat and put hands on the game.
Actually, so I started a YouTube channel like last week, and the second video I made is on this idea, which I titled it like Blizz broke Classic. And that the quote that North threw out there is from Soren Johnson, who is one of the lead developers on the Civilization game. So it's a strategy game. And obviously in a strategy game, if there is an optimal way to play, then you're forcing the players to play optimally all the time in a strategy game, right? And Classic WoW, especially raids, have turned into strategy games. They're trying to min-max every single way that they can optimize time out of their runs to be the fastest. It's a strategy game at this point. And so it's perfectly applicable to Classic. And so I do talk about like, yeah, Blizzard is responsible, I think, for the three things that plagued Classic the most, which is, and I call it gold buying, because in order for bots to exist and gold sellers to exist, there needs to be a market for them, and that's the players who are buying gold. And Blizzard, to this point, I don't know a single person who has bought gold and then been banned for it on the Classic WoW game. I don't know a single person. I know people who have bought gold, and I know that they have not been banned, and they bought significant amount of gold. And you can just look at any GDKP and know that there's a bunch of gold being bought. Like, it's not a surprise. But Blizzard has let that go. They don't care. That's one. Two is the boosting. Like, the dungeon boosting completely killed the entire world. Like, there is no other way to level as optimally as just paying a mage to boost you. And that also goes back to the bots and funding the gold buying. And the third one is world buffs. Like, the game is not the same as it was in 2005. And if we were playing the game in 2005 the way that we are today, you bet your ass that Jeff Kaplan would have nerfed it. Like, there's no way that they would have let the game be played the way that we're playing it today back in 2005. And so I do think that Blizzard dropped the ball in a significant way on Classic by not addressing these things that the players are the ones who are participating in this stuff, but that's only because you're letting us. You're not putting a cap on it. and that falls on Blizzard's feet for sure.
It's so weird with the dungeon, the way the dungeon boosting meta evolved. Like, I remember, so I was leading a guild, we were going for server first, on our server, we got server first Ragnaros and an XVII, so we were speed leveling, we were blasting, and for the first 3 days of Classic WoW, the meta, who remembers, it was 10-man dungeon farming, so people were doing 10-man Scarlet Monastery Cathedral, 10-man Zul'Farrak, 10-man Lower Blackrock Spire, and that was insane XP per hour. And then Blizzard came out and said, hold up, this is day 3 of Classic WoW. The game's been out just a couple days. They said, hold up, this is stupid, we're going to fix this. And so they made it so if you're in a raid, you get way reduced XP. And so people started doing 5-man dungeon boosting. And what we found, I was level 53, and we were doing 10-man Lower Blackrock Spire XP farming on day 3 of Classic. And Blizzard broke the 10-man XP farm, and we're like, hey, let's try to do 5-man Lower Blackrock Spire farm. So we had like, a warlock and 2 mages and a tank and a healer or whatever. And so we'd go in there, and it was actually more XP per hour. And we're like, okay, well, you just did nothing. You actually made us more efficient now, Blizzard. Nice. And then it's just stayed that way for the last year and a half. And now mages are using this same methodology to boost players, and like you guys know it in Bardon and Zul'Farrak and stuff. So it's like they were so close. And the attention was there. They were so close to fixing the issue. And they almost did, and then they didn't quite manage it, and then they've sat on it for a year and a half.
Yep.
It's like what's the point? What was the intention here? It's really weird.
I see what you mean. They were close, yeah, and then they kind of just went radio silent. So looking at TBC,
I actually sent an email to Ian Hazakostas right after the Classic WoW demo at BlizzCon, so like 10 months before release, telling him, and we actually had like a discussion thread about a few things, and I appealed to him like, you guys should nerf or ban world buffs from raids. So a good 9-10 months before Classic WoW was ever released, because I was on the private server and I knew what the meta already was for world buffs. It's been turned up to the nth degree now, but and basically he said like, I understand that, but we feel like back in the day, people had to use world buffs in order to get over hurdle, and if that situation happens in Classic, we don't want to remove that option for people to get over the hurdle, which is kind of naive, I think. Obviously, I probably had a better understanding of what the Classic environment was going to look like than he did, because he wasn't paying attention. He wasn't playing on private servers, but if you were paying attention, you knew this was going to come from way before Classic was even launched.
Yeah. Well, just to put it into actionable things, like what could Blizzard do? What do we want, community? Community in the chat right now. There's a good amount of big brains in here. What do we want? Do we want harder bosses? Would that change anything? Would that fix anything? Or will the sweat just rise to meet the occasion? Do we want XP to be will be a function of percent damage dealt to mobs to prevent boosting and 70s going in and just AFKing at a dungeon to boost up the level cap? Do we want what do we want?
That's an interesting idea with the XP percentage. I've never heard of that before.
What do you want, Crix? What do you want, Crix? You love rating. Are you happy with how rating's looking like? What do you want, bro?
I like hard content, so I'm gonna say harder bosses. Okay, so let me start with saying I know that Karazhan is not supposed to be hard, and I get that, right? But Gruul's is fine. Buff up the damage that he causes, shatters, caves into stuff. Mags is great. Like how Mags was, just make stuff like that. You see how people wipe to Mags, whether that was bugs, whether that was confusion, clicking. Give us a little bit of wipes, man. At the same time, I understand that Karazhan's supposed to be easy, and I'm not going to say to buff Karazhan just because we're tryhards and shit. But look at that gear they gave us, man. It was a little bit too easy, in my opinion. So I'm always on team buff. I'm always going to be. It could be. I'm a retail guy, dude. I like 400, 500 wipes on Argus. I don't care. I'm down for that. I'm with that. I know not everybody is that way too. At the same time. Maybe another difficulty of the raid can help. Anything, I don't know. Raiding.
Oh, another difficulty of the raid. Interesting.
Have your guys' normal difficulty, like however you want to do it, and then let's give us a mythic one, bro. Give us something that for us to sweat on if you want to sweat, right? I'll say the drums thing doesn't make any sense. Fix that. Like, make it. That's just weird. You're still drums. My whole raid is still drums. Everyone's gonna be drums. Like we're sweaty. You're doing it.
Yeah, we should talk about the professions at some point. It's kind of a clown fiesta right now.
They wanted to change it and what they changed didn't do their change. It was stupid. But then they changed it. Yeah, we'll get to that. That's a whole other tilt factor. But honestly, I just really like I like the harder content, so I would like some harder content.
For me, I think probably the biggest issue with TBC at the moment, obviously the drums are kind of annoying, but I think is still going to be the dungeon boosting meta. It's ridiculous. I think one good idea I've seen is linking the dungeon XP to killing bosses. We have to kill a boss for everyone to get the XP. Yeah, could be a potential solution. Who knows? There's a lot of like a nuance to the conversation though. Another thing I was going to say, frick, I just totally spaced it out. Oh yeah, I see this conversation manifest all the time. It's in Twitch chat and on forums, and people laugh at each other. Which version of the game is harder? You know, vanilla or TBC or retail? And it's like, it's hands down. Like retail, like mythic rating and even heroic rating is way more mechanically challenging than anything in classic. But who cares? Like people just want to play a fun game, and people play classic or TBC because they have fun playing it. And so I think potentially buffing raid bosses in classic or buffing bosses in TBC, which are already a little bit harder than in classic already. I think buffing the content would actually alienate, I would speculate, the majority of the classic player base, which has chosen to play this mechanically easier and more relaxed version of the game because they think it's more fun.
True.
Like I think if like people know if they want a super mechanical challenge, they go and play retail that's waiting there for them, right? They can go be mythic raiders.
Well, here's the thing. Would you consider that 24-minute? Was it a 24-minute full Nax clear by progress the other day, or was it a 24-second Saffron or something?
It was 45 minutes, but a 24-second Saffron.
Right,
so that's
right,
probably
right.
getting 24 from.
So I'm saying, you know, I guess my point is the sweaties can always go for the speedrun route to create that difficulty. And if you're going fast enough and hard enough, you could probably create a comparable difficulty to anything in retail, I would imagine. You just have to just keep getting faster, man. Just keep getting faster until you get there, and then you're looking at something similar.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I think it's kind of...
So I will quickly say, I spent the first, up until a couple months after AQ40 came out, we were a competitive speedrunning guild. We had top 10 clears in every raid tier. We silver first and stuff like that. I don't think anyone that's been speedrunning in Classic will say, oh, these raids are too easy. Because the difficulty is there if you seek it out, right? These top 50 speedrun guilds, they have every 2-minute potion cooldown mapped out. They have a plan for every trash bag. They know what they're doing always. And classic raiding is not about so much what the raids force you to do, as so much what the raids allow you to get away with and how much you can get out of the raid, right? And so like stuff that like Progress is doing in this last run, it's insane. That's hard. Like there's a reason why no one has ever done a 45-minute run, because it's hard to pull that off. It's not hard to go in and kill the bosses over 6 hours on a two-night raid schedule. That's easy. But to do what these speedrun guilds is doing, it's incredibly challenging. It is, and it takes a ton of preparation.
Yeah. So one, I think the conversation almost might be moot, because there is no way that Blizzard is going to go into and intentionally buff these raids. It's just not going to happen. Like, if you look at how they administered Classic and the hands-off approach they took to Classic, now they're doing a little bit more hands-on now, but there's no way they're then going to jump to the next level and all of a sudden, like, Karazhan has 200% HP and buff bosses. And I think the reason is that once you start tuning every raid to that level, you're then now pushing every player to be a min-max type player. You're pushing raid compositions to have to stack warlocks, have to do this. And that's not really what they want to do with Classic. I don't think that's what they want to do with Classic. And like Staysafe said, if you want the most, like what Progress is doing and what they did in the 45-minute run is probably the top 10, 20 speedrunning guilds in the world are probably guilds who are doing things the way and approaching the raids in the way that a Mythic Raiding Guild and Shadowlands approaches their raids. They're mapping out every single thing. They know when to use their Light of Illusions, the one Light of Illusion that they ever get on that character. They plan it out for one specific speed run. Like, they're doing the work to have the speed runs exist, and that's kind of where the difficulty can lie in Classic if you want to find it. But I would prefer having more difficult raids, but I don't think it's going to happen because Blizzard doesn't want to push players, ironically, to this min-max degree.
I see. Well, let me. I have a point I'm getting at here too, and I'm gonna save it for a second. Just take a second to think about this when I say it too. Like chat too. I'm curious if you guys have any, what your own opinion would be on this. Selfishly, in your own parallel universe, like if you could change one big aspect of WoW, so you think it would be better for your own selfish needs or would improve the game. One thing that you wish Blizzard would do. You wish they would do it. You wish they would see the light and change their mind on something. What would it be for you? Maybe Crix, do you have anything?
For TBC or for Classic?
Could just be.
I'm assuming TBC.
Are you ready?
Yeah, it could be TBC, could be for Classic, could be anything. Retail, what's up?
Listen to the community. There you go. Well, I want you to do, Blizzard.
What would be the thing you would want them to listen to about, though? Like, what bugs you? Like, or is there something that you just...
everything that we've already complained about. The drums fucking nonsense. Now we can't do, like, the enchanting, jewel crafting shit you just switched. What are you guys doing with these offhand main hand things for the fucking... You're nerfing offhand main hands for meme classes? Like, you're hurting enhancement shamans and fury warrior? I mean, the raid difficulty, the heroic... There's a list. Everything that everybody complained about, listen to that. I'm not saying change all of it, obviously, but, like, if you have 3 things on a list that people are complaining about, one of them 100% of people are complaining about, the second one 50% of people are complaining about, and the third one 10% are, fuck those other 2, go to that 100%.
All right.
Just saying. Simple enough.
I think so. In Classic, my number 1 would be world buffs, and they're addressing that in TBC. So check that off the list. That's done. I had to suffer through it for a year and a half of raid logging with world buffs. I'm ready to be done with that. The second one for me is dungeon experience. The raw dungeon experience is... So I did a test on the beta. I tested slave pens 62 to 63. I'm a warlock, I can solo it. I got my time. And then I did 62 to 63 in Zangarmarsh. I was by myself because the beta is empty, just questing. I'm an efficient quester. I know how to level. I know how to play this game. It took me 3 times longer to go from 62 to 63, questing in Zangarmarsh, than it did me soloing as a warlock in slave pens. And slave pens is like you literally press Curse of Exhaustion and Corruption, and things will die eventually. Like, it's not hard. And so this idea of like me being able to solo in dungeons by myself being 3 times more efficient than me being out in the world, which is competitive and on PvP server doubly so, I think that's broken. And what it feels like to me, and this is the way I think that we need to give feedback, is I feel forced to solo in slave pens as my only option to level efficiently because it's so much more efficient than being out in the world.
Yep.
And do you, as a game developer, want me to feel forced into a certain route because of how much more efficient it is? And so some level of nerfing dungeon experience, which we already know in Classic is way more efficient than leveling out in the world, doubly so in TBC, and especially on launch, I would want to see them address that so you don't feel forced into doing that. Well, and I know that there's, like, we're all warlocks here, and we're probably like, no, I'd really like my really easy way to level up to 66 and then get out into the Grand and do my questing and be done with it. But as quickly as possible. But I think World of Warcraft is better when everybody is engaging with each other and there's these things that pop up in the world, and that can't happen when you're in a swirly portal the entire time.
What do you think, chat? Do you want a repeat of the leveling meta of Classic and TBC? Maybe you do. Some people might have enjoyed it. Let's hear it. Let's see what you guys think. I'm assuming most people are going to say hell no, but stay safe. Anything come to mind? Your one selfish change that you wish Blizzard would actually do?
You have 2 really, really smart guests here with Nano and Crix, because they listed all 3 of my points. Like, for real. My favorite content in Classic and TBC is leveling. I love leveling all. It's badass. I love it. It's my more than anything else. It's my favorite thing to do. And even a guy like me who loves it, doing quests and running around the world exploring, it's hard to rationalize doing that when you can sit AFK in Moradon and get 10 times XP per hour, or do the slave pen things like Nano's talking about. It's hard to rationalize, and it sucks to be in that position, right? So yeah, dungeon XP has been a joke. It's really laughable. It sucks that it's taken so long to fix, or it's not even fixed, that it's continuing on into TBC. It's terrible. The world buff thing was probably my biggest single gripe about this game, how you're actually incentivized to not play your character through Classic. I mean, I sat down and added it up the other day on stream. I spent like 54 days raid logged. 54 real life 24-hour days raid logged.
Wow, that's insane.
Throughout the last 2 years. It's terrible. It's a joke. It's terrible for the game, right? And I know people say like, oh, just play an alt. It's like, what if I want to play my main? You know what I mean? Like, what if I just want to play my main? So it sucks. And then also, yeah, I feel like Blizzard is a bit out of touch, to Crix's point. I feel like they should just take some like super sweaty turbo nerds and like pay them like $50K a year, keep them on retainer, like, and just like use them as like as an insight. Just ask them, hey, yo, is this a good idea? Should we make drums more annoying or less annoying? Oh, more annoying? Yeah, okay, we'll do that. So it's like, what the hell are you thinking with this drum thing, right? It's just
imagine his LinkedIn profile. It's like sweaty gamer liaison, Blizzard Entertainment. It's actually...
I'm actually very. We can get into profession stuff a little bit, but I'm actually very pro the change that they made to having the ring enchants and the jewel crafting specific gems to be specific for that profession, because it enabled you to go super sweaty to get the smallest increase. And so by doing so, they've actually slightly nerfed player power overall, which I think is a good thing, which if you want harder content, that's one way you can accomplish it if players are slightly less strong. The second thing is I have no idea what they're doing with drums. I think the way that they're implementing this drum change is hopefully I think that they think that drums aren't going to be worth it, quote unquote, for the vast majority of people, and are okay if the sweatiest of the sweaty feel like they still need them, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, put a 2-minute buff or debuff on when somebody uses drums, and don't worry about the range and any of that stuff. Like, again, that's nerfing player power, which makes the content more difficult, so accomplishes both of those things at the same time. And this is opposite of the jewel crafting and enchanting thing, or make drums not leatherwork only to use, because otherwise you're forcing this, like, the vast majority of the community to be leatherworkers, to be min-max, and I'm not jiving with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, all the drum changes we could have did, that made no sense.
Yeah, I feel like
What's that?
Your point is right. I feel like the goal with the drum change was to make them so annoying and inconvenient that people would choose to
that they don't use them.
And it's like, Blizzard, you know that people have been leveling up like level 20 mind cap alts to get War Chief's Blessing, and it's like, do you even know how people have been playing this game for the last 18 months? People are ridiculous. And then they'll sit there raid logged for 5 days. It's like, come on. People will always sacrifice personal fun for a slight edge of performance. Always.
I think one thing that they did, I feel like they didn't do well. I feel like when Classic came out, they were still like, their focus was retail, right? I feel like they didn't have a lot of shine on Classic as it is retail. And I think if they just had to focus on TBC more than they did on Classic, I think. And there's 100% a way that they have the money. There's something they can do about these bots. There's no way that there's nothing that they can do about these bots, right? Like,
well, for the first time, we had that interview, like, I don't know, it was like a month or two ago, and we actually got to get a small glimpse of what it's like behind the curtain, and they were claiming that they actually have, like, fraud teams, and, like, they're actively banning hundreds of people every day. It's the first time we even heard anything like that, you know, that maybe they do that, but I think better communication from Blizzard that doesn't have that ego and that whiff of, like, pride and ego would be a huge step forward. Just IMO. Just to close out with my one thing, I selfishly wish Blizzard would embrace. I don't think they'll ever do it, but this is just me in my own selfish world. I wish they would embrace cyclical WoW. I wish they would embrace kind of a seasonal WoW. It doesn't have to be across the board, but a rolling, fresh kind of seasonal, quarterly, or a couple times a year they would roll a fresh server. I think a lot of these issues that we have with the game could be addressed with this rolling fresh, right? It resets that gold boost economy, the gold selling, the RMT economy. It resets the botting and the sweat lords and everything like that. It just reinvigorates the community a bit, you know, that formative stage on a server. I would love to play on fresh servers, but it doesn't seem like they really have any interest in doing that. So anyway,
private servers kind of prove that fresh can be an effective way of keeping at least sizable portion of the player base involved, but they there is something to be said that most private servers never really finished their timeline of the content. There's no, to my mind, I think the only private server that ever actually progressed into a different expansion, like on an appropriate timeline, was that weird one that started with like the Wrath of the Lich King base and then like downported it back to Classic, and it had like 80 people playing on it. That's the only one that I know of that actually progressed into the next expansion in a timely way. And so having the cyclical fresh can kill your own player base and those servers over and over again. Like, you clear Nax once and then you're done. Whereas on Classic, people are farming Nax and earning that gear, which people never really did on private servers because there's always a fresh one around the corner, and it killed the reason for you to play on that server. So I don't imagine that Blizzard's actually going to do a fresh set of Classic. I think they will, but I don't know if they will until after they've gone through the entire like Classic, which I call as like, you know, vanilla TBC Wrath. I think they're going to walk through that timeline and then press reset and bring us back 6 years and do it again. That's what I think Blizzard's going to do.
Yeah. Quick impromptu poll in the chat. And knowing what you know now, you've watched the beta unfold before your eyes. One's in the chat if you would play afresh at this point in time, or two's if you've kind of shied away from the idea, you're just still looking forward to continuing your character. Just throw that in the chat as we get this blue post up. So we're going to review this blue post. It's a kind of a sizable one, and just provide our thoughts on it. So here we go. Try to zoom in on it for you guys. Okay. I don't know if it's good to just read through all of this. It's going to take some time. Let me try to just hit the bullet points. Attunements are going to function as they did when originally released. Not too interesting there. Kara attunement's going to be in place. I don't think anybody was thinking otherwise, but I guess the revered reputation requirement for heroics, everybody's on the same page there, thinking that that's a good call. Also, original health and damage values will be used for dungeons and raids. These, as well as some mechanical changes, will then be adjusted in future phases. The original state for raids will persist throughout the phase during which it is current content. With the release of the next phase, adjustments will be made as they were in original Burning Crusade. Exceptions will be considered. We're looking forward to your feedback on adjustments. Buffs acquired from creatures and quests from across Outlands are purged upon entering an instance. We kind of talked about this already. I don't know, boys. I mean, out of this whole blue post, maybe it's just better to try to poke at it and pick out things that you guys notice that are worth talking about.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier. I think some world buffs actually could have been brought into TBC raids. I think Songflower is one of them. There's like the 5-minute demon enslave buff you can get from the succubus that some warriors were, super excited for whatever. It's like it's good that they are.
Darkmoon Fair also you could bring in.
Also, yep. There you go. So it's my opinion is that it's good that you can't bring that stuff in. I think it is just it just makes the game less fun, right?
Agreed. Yep. I wonder if there's anybody who wants all those buffs out there.
Yeah.
It's possible that the biggest speedrunning guilds right now, I mean, they love world buffs because it enables them to do crazy stuff. And that is like the only benefit of world buffs, is that it enables guilds to try the craziest possible things that they can get away with, because they just have this insane buffer of health value and damage. But I'm more interested in an even playing field and people just going to raid rather than having to plan out like Onslaught used to raid at like 1 a.m. because it took them that long to get everybody their buffs, which is just insane.
Yeah.
So like I'm excited about a lot of these things. So one thing that is really nice to see is Ritual of Summoning will not work inside instances or Netherstorm. Yeah. So that's something that that's something they changed in 2.4. The reason why Netherstorm, the RP reason is that the storms in Netherstorm interrupt the summoning ritual, so it doesn't work. But the real reason is that you couldn't summon to the Tempest Keep dungeons in Raid, which you have to have flying to get to. So that's the reason why it doesn't work in Netherstorm. But inside instances has a second benefit, and if you're on a PvP server and you enjoy world PvP, you could potentially lock people out of some raids because you keep them from being able to zone in because you're holding the doors at dungeons and raids and stuff like that. Whereas if you're able to summon into the instance. So if you care about world PvP, this is a slight benefit for you. Now I know that it can also lead to a lot of griefing as well. So there's two sides of that coin.
Is it correct to say they've taken the harder choice for everything when they had the option? Like, so they chose Revered, Rep for Heroics. Badges of Justice will not drop from bosses until later. You can no longer exchange badges for, what was it called? Nether Vortex or whatever. There's, what else? There's,
what comes to mind, one easy choice they made, which makes the game a bit easier, is they have, it sounds like, the fishing dailies, the cooking dailies, and the daily heroic dungeon dailies, which were not there originally in the game, but they've said, we'll screw them, leave them in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those aren't game breaking, which is why it seems
kind of
like
whatever, right?
Yeah, the badge.
Yeah, the cooking and fishing stuff is whatever.
That's supposed to be like that. That's not. That's a good move on their part doing that.
So here's kind of the elephant in the room with all this blue post. For me, at least, it's the professions. I feel like the professions have a good chance of being a bit scuffed right now. I'll just explain my position as somebody who's more interested on the PvP side, but I do want to PvE as well. I want to clear content and do some dungeons and raids with the boys, you know. But so drums, it looks like they didn't change too much. Like the sweatiest of the sweaty, Crix is going that route, are still going to require them, right? And then enchanting. So they made it so when you drop enchanting, your rings no longer stay enchanted, right? And same thing with the gems, that you no longer are able to use those. So pretty much it's hard to squeeze in engineering. And a lot of people who want a PvP want engineering for the belt. Rumor has it there's a possibility that the rocket boots might work as well in arenas, but for sure the belt will at least. And you're pretty married to tailoring as a caster. We're all warlocks, right? And apparently you have to use tailoring all the way through tier 6 through tier 6 content, holding onto those frozen shadowy boots and just spell strike, all that. I don't feel like I have a lot of flexibility with professions, and I feel like these changes are supposed to make it feel like you can go any profession you want. Also, goggles not being in the game initially, like that you can craft them T5 and beyond, but their power level will have almost been fully diminished at that point. So what's the point of goggles? I'm just opening it up. You guys have any issues with professions? Crix, we were talking about this before.
I don't know. I just feel like it's just professions. Choose two of them and go with it. They keep changing all. The actual jewel crafting and the enchanting one is a win-win in my eyes. I don't care, because one, I was going to do it either way to min-max, but now I don't have to min-max that hard. Now it's like takes one less thing I have to min-max. The whole jewel crafting, stocking up on gems, you already know, enchanting. Now we don't have to do that. So in a way, it saves money. You can look at it that way, or you can look at it like, yo, I really wanted to min-max. So it kind of feels like that's moot, right? When you look at PvP, that's you. I mean, it's just pick a profession and run with it, you know?
I would prefer the game to be that way, right? Like, I would prefer, because I'm a person who wants to do PvP and PvE, right? And so I don't want to be forced to be a leather worker and then drop it after raid and then level up engineering so I can use engineering things for the rest of the week and then drop it again and re-level leatherworking so I can use drums. Like, that sucks. I don't want that. Like, nobody actually wants to do that. They like some people maybe like the idea of like, oh, I can try harder than other people, but nobody actually enjoys the fact like, I'm gonna sit here and just make a bunch of armor kits for an hour. The engineering goggles I think is a good thing because they are tier 5 equivalent in power. Some classes the goggles are better, some classes tier 5 is better, but having it available from day one just takes that power level of every player up to a degree that didn't exist in the original version. Like, you did not have these tier goggles available at the beginning of the game, so why should we have them in TBC
Only thing
Classic?
is, though, who's wearing them, right? So even if the goggles do exist, boys, who's actually wearing them, right? Warlocks, we're wearing Spell Strike, right? Yo, mages, they're wearing Spell Strike, right? Shadow Priests, they're wearing Spell Strike, right? Hunters, they're wearing Beast Lord, right? Tanks? Who's wearing them into PvE, even if they did exist out of the gates? Crix, you might have a really good idea of who would.
I think that's kind of moot because it didn't exist then during the early content, so why should it exist now?
True.
And it's the same reasoning for me as this main hand one-handed thing for the weapons. These weapons were only one-handers for 5 months in TBC. The last 5 months of TBC, they were one-handers. For the whole rest of the game, they were main-handers. And the reason that they changed them was a catch-up mechanism for people to be able to get 2 weapons relatively, like on their own time, relatively easily. And so why should we increase player power to be more than it was because of how it was at the very end of the game? That doesn't make too much sense to me.
Yeah, with particularly the weapon change, I feel like you have a demographic of players who are like, yeah, we want authentic Blizz-like, sort of like no changes-esque gameplay until a no changes approach is taken in a way that negatively impacts their class or their spec. And then they're like, yo, this is stupid as fuck, right? So with the weapon, like Nano's hit the nail on the head, right? I think like if you want everything else in early TBC to be as it was in early TBC, I think for the sake of being consistent, I think you have to be in favor of the one hand hammer thing, right?
I hear that. Will anybody use these goggles if they release them at Tier 5? Is there any more of a use case, maybe on alts or something as you're leveling new and up? But there should be superior alternatives at that stage, right?
If they were released early, I'm pretty sure the Rogue engineering goggles are really good for them. I'm not sure. I think maybe Prop Paladins might use them as well. It's obviously not a huge power increase, but it's still a power increase. And so I think to be consistent, if you want harder content, then you should also be okay with anything that also makes players less powerful if it's appropriate to the timeline that we're talking about, because that accomplishes that task at the same time.
Another thing is, keep in mind, not everyone on all of their characters always religiously follows best in slot lists for every phase. Like, I have 4 level 60s. Some of them have scuffed random gear that's just like okay, even though it's not BIS, because I just don't have time to farm BIS everything on all of my characters always, right? So it's like, the goggles might not be BIS, but in phase 2, which is tier 5 content, but who's to say your third alt doesn't have a pair of goggles, right? Just because the mats might be cheap, whatever, So it's one of those situations.
True. Okay. So you guys feel pretty good about the professions? Like, do you think? What about drums? Is that still a sore spot, or are you just kind of like whatever at this point?
I have a suspicion.
Go ahead.
I have a suspicion that there's still changes and tinkering to possibly be done with drums. Because they announced their intention and they have not talked about it since. And the uproar from most people that I've seen, at least, and maybe I'm just insulated in my own little silo, but most people have been like, why? Like, you were trying to get people to not use leatherworking and you have not accomplished that. So, like, what is this? I don't understand it. Go back to the drawing board, do this instead. That's what I've seen from people. And so I think that there might still be a change to come to the drums that, the community by large, from at least what I've seen, would agree with.
I feel like the drum thing is a perfect example of them being out of touch with what the player base wants. So like I made that joke about having like some sweaty players on retainer just to ask them questions. It's like, it's like I tell my my construction guy or like my painting guy in my house, like, hey, I don't like this red paint you painted my wall. Can you do something about this? I'm a fan of blue. And he's like, yeah, sure, I got it. And it's like, come on the next day and my wall's torn down. It's like, dude, you just had to paint the wall. You did like the stupidest thing you possibly could have done. So I feel like the drum solution was completely ridiculous. I hope Nano is right that they are still considering changing things.
I think they are.
Yeah, I hope so.
That made no sense. It doesn't even make sense. It's like, what?
Everyone's still going to use them. It just feels way worse to use now.
Way worse.
Yeah.
Like 8 yards? But guess what? Getting that 8 yards at the same time. So it's like, it's kind of stupid, bro.
Oh, man. So they still need to work on the drums. I think we're all on the same page. I feel a bit awkward to use, and hopefully they have something else in store. Another thing that's this has been pretty polarizing in the PvP community. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about it. So they did move from 400 millisecond batching to 10 millisecond batching. Now this is effectively kind of removed batching, like these interactions that added flavor, and a lot of people who played at the super high level looked forward to in TBC. Examples would be Vanish immuning a cheap shot, Vanish immuning a blind, all the cool gouge interactions. All of these big plays, so to speak, are no longer on the table as far as TBC is concerned. So some of the PvP, like, connoisseurs who like really love TBC PvP think that they need to move to a happy medium between 400 milliseconds and 10, maybe at 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, because to them, this is not TBC PvP. This is some new age meta.
I'll tell you this. I think there's like two sides to it. I would argue, I've did a lot of PvP through Classic WoW. I don't think vanishing a Death Coil or vanishing a Poly in Classic WoW was a skill play. It was brain dead. Like, it was so easy. Because you know out of a kidney what a Warlock's going to do or whatever, right? You know the coil's coming. I don't think it's hard to do. The 400 MS window was so brain dead. So I think the counterpoint is, dude, if you're a rogue and you can vanish something with the 10 MS window, like, you're a god. You're amazing. You're fucking amazing at this game. And if you know it's coming, you can pull it off. I think it's actually way higher skill cap the way it is now, to be totally honest.
I think that we're 4 Warlocks in here, and I don't know if any of us are gonna lose any sleep if rogues are less powerful.
True though.
But one thing that happens in Classic all the time, when you can see a rogue as a Warlock and press your button that without batching would break them out of their stealth, but because of batching, they're able to land a cheap shot at the same moment that you would have brought them out of the stealth, right? And that's only happening because of almost a half a second of lag that they've introduced to the game that's artificial. Like, that doesn't need to exist in today's video games. It doesn't have to. Like, nobody would play Counter-Strike if there was 400 MS batching. It would not happen, right?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but if the definition of good or good meta versus bad meta is dependent on half a second of lag, like artificial lag to compensate for people having dial-up internet in 2004, if that's what's considered good meta or high skill cap, like, hey, fuck it, dude. Like, I think it's time to move on from that. Like, seriously, I think, like, if you can deal with CC and outplay people in a 10 MS window, that's skill. That's insane.
Okay. I mean, like you said, if I was playing a rogue, I might feel a certain type of way, but from the lock perspective, and just I'm kind of a student of the game when it comes to TBC PvP, and rogues just really stand out above and beyond the other classes as, to put it in simply, they seem like a class and a half at times. They can heal, they can pressure, they can control, they dictate the opener. They're just so strong. So them getting a little bit weaker maybe isn't the end of the world. So another concern that's on people's minds right now is we just saw the tier 4 content. We just saw Kara, we saw Gruels, we saw Mags, and saw how fast and sort of easy they did go down. Are you guys concerned that Phase 1 is going to last too long and people are going to lose interest here? Do you think Blizzard needs to maybe relook at the phases and get pretty aggressive with Phase 1? What if Phase 1 is 4 months long of Kara, Mags, and Gruels, plus Arena? Are we still sitting pretty?
I think that is I think it's going to be a 3-month phasing thing just because of the Arena, and I think that is way too long raid content wise. Especially if it's going to fall over, when you sneeze on it. That's a long time to 3 months of T4. The T4 that ended, you could probably clear T4 in one night. Like what? Still scary.
So we actually had a glimpse of what Blizzard's original plan was for the timeline, because when they originally announced the timeline, Season 1 of Arena was the first 2 phases of Classic. And immediately there was this outcry from the PvP-oriented community that says, no, then our gear doesn't match up from the seasons with what you can get in PvE. And Blizzard immediately did an about-face and put 4 seasons of PvP instead of 3, which is what their original plan was. So it seems like what their original plan was is for a pretty short Phase 1, 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that, and then into the next phase of PvE content. But the PvPers cried no, we need that. And because of that, I think that the Arena season has to be some length of 3 months, right? Otherwise, it just feels like it's too short for the PvP season, but it's also going to be too long for the PvE phase. So I think it's a weird spot that we're in right now, that maybe Blizzard needs to just divorce those two things and say Season 2 of Arena is going to start halfway through Phase 2, rather than keeping them in line with the PvE content releases, which is actually something they kind of ended up doing for Classic early on anyway.
I don't know. I think I actually disagree with both you guys in a gentle way. I think the 4 of us, we tend to be high time investment in the game. We play a lot. We have a lot of time to no life. We're above average players. And if you're watching a World of Warcraft stream at 6:30 p.m. on a Saturday, you're probably a no life nerd too. Okay, that's just the truth. And so when talking about discussions like this or schedules like this, I try to argue on behalf of like the average normal player, which I don't think we represent generally. I think we're all above average players. And so it's like your average player is going to take 2, maybe 3 weeks to hit 70. It's going to take them a month or 3 weeks to farm their blue PvP gear because honor farming is so slow in TBC. It's going to take them weeks to get exalted or even revered with their reputations to do heroics. They're going to be progressing on Gruul for 2 weeks or fucking the Mulgar, more like it. They're going to be like you saw how no lives were dealing with Magtheridon in the beta. Like, how do you think casuals are going to do? Magtheridon's going to be hard for people, right? So I think if you're a raider, I totally understand. Like, phase 1 of TBC tier for content, it's not a lot to do. Like a guy like Crix or even a guy like me or Nano Kargoz, like we're going to run out of raid stuff to do pretty soon. We're going to be leveling our alts to keep ourselves busy or farm an arena, right? But for most people, like I think the majority of the content in phase 1 of TBC is actually not the raid content. It's leveling, it's farming your PvP gear, it's doing some casual arena, get your reputations, farm your heroic gear, get your badges, do your professions, level your alt maybe, and be progressing through this tier 4 content.
All right, yeah, that's a nice take on it for sure. We do live in kind of a bubble sometimes, you know, so it's good to take a breath.
I'll tell you, just to rewind for a second. I'll tell you, like I was super sweaty through most of Classic, and I was bored for the last 2 months of every phase, maybe 3 months of every phase. Like I was bored. There was not a lot to do because we were doing split raids. Dude, I was raiding, BWL and Molten Core on 3 characters every week. It's just I was full bis going into every subsequent raid tier. Just ran out of stuff to do because we were so efficient with everything we did. But that's not how most people play the game, right?
Well, let me ask you though: was Classic a success for you? Like, did you have a ton of fun throughout? Did you feel that sense of community, that spark, that energy? Did you look forward to the stream every day? Was it? You think it?
Well, I'd say my big realization with Classic that changed over time was that I don't enjoy playing the game as hardcore as I thought I would, because I went really hardcore, and I've decided after like probably 14-15 months of doing that, like I stopped hardcore raiding and doing speedruns maybe 3 months into AQ40, and I started chilling, and I started having way more fun personally. But that's the great thing about Classic, right? There's no right way or wrong way to play the game. You just kind of do whatever you want. It's fun. So I went in super hardcore, kind of became casual, and I love it.
It's interesting you say that. I found myself kind of in a similar position doing hardcore for a while. Like you just kind of there's probably some truth in that for me as well. And I do still think that hardcore servers would be a cool thing for Blizzard to add, just because all the stars are aligned in the sense that you can just take a deep breath and play the game, and because the threat of one life, your character's deleted, is there, no one's really pressuring you to play in any kind of way. They know, they respect that you have one life and you're just out there kind of listening to the music and ambience, enjoying the game. Maybe someday it'll do it.
Yeah, well, talking. So I said hardcore in a different regard, but hardcore leveling, yeah, I did some of that. Yeah. I think it'd be cool if they just made like 1 or 2 hardcore servers where if you die, your character's deleted. I think they should just cater to that audience a little bit more.
That would be sick. Yeah, that would be sick. What about you, Nano, Crix? Was Classic a success for you guys? Like, did you learn anything from TBC? I mean, from Classic heading into TBC? Like, maybe you won't make that mistake again, or you.
I'll let Crix go first.
Bro, I quit Classic. So what do you think?
True. Why did you quit Classic? Some of the people don't know, man.
I hated it. Despised it.
Damn.
I quit. I hung up my retail rating career, which I was very proud of, over many years for Classic, and it was a shit show. It was just utter hot garbage. Uttered the whole thing. Leveling was cool. Don't get me ranted on it. Just don't get me started on it. But I had a lot of fun. First 2 phases, that was the most fun ever. Invictus Life. The lifespan of Invictus and about a month afterwards was super fun. After that, fuck off, bro. I'm ready for TBC. I'm ready to go. Am I going to do the same thing? A lot of my guild memes me. Are you going to quit TBC for Lich King servers? You never know.
Gotta stay ahead of the meta. Yeah. What about you, Nano?
I got pretty much everything out of Classic that I wanted when Classic came out. I have gripes, obviously. I talked about a few of them. I think I probably would grade for myself. Like, I've probably had like a 92 out of 100 for Classic. And that doesn't mean I can't I can't care about that last 8%, right? Or that last 8 points, and that for me probably would have been like get rid of world buffs, and it would have been like 98, 99 for me. But I got everything out of Classic I wanted. Like I've raided every single week with 4 world buffs and full consumables every week, all of Classic. I got an ATS, which was my like goal for Classic because it's something that I never accomplished.
Rats, brother.
Yeah, I enjoy raiding in Classic, even though it's easier. I enjoy the challenge of pushing myself to be better every single week, pushing myself to press Shadow Bolt just a little bit harder every single week. And I've enjoyed it a lot. I also have a really good guild that I enjoy spending time with every single week. And whether it's in WoW or outside of WoW, like it's kind of my home. So I've enjoyed Classic, and I think the guild in general will probably agree with me as well. Like we've had a really good time in Classic. Classic has been great, and I'm glad that we got it.
Yeah. For me, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hell of it. I'm so appreciative of it. It's been great. This game has kept a roof over my head, made a lot of friends, man. Some of my best friends now. It's just kind of like crossed that line in the sand where they're no longer internet friends. They're just kind of like IRL friends, man. It's been amazing. With that in mind, though, I do kind of wish sometimes that, like, I almost view Classic WoW as like an industry, like, and we're all like having our own little brands and companies, and we're all streaming and doing our own things. And it would be cool to like tie it all together more, and it's almost it's almost like a reality show or something. All these different people streaming and doing their own things, but it all still kind of like comes together, and it's all part of one industry or one cast of characters. And I don't know if it's events or tournaments, or maybe it's going to be arena, but some way to bring it all together. More community events would be so sick.
Yeah,
Quick. Oh, go ahead, Staysafe.
It's weird. Like that was kind of the goal on Fairlina, and then what happened was everyone just sort of started doing their own thing. I'll tell you maybe not the most fun, but definitely some really fun times during Classic were the Classic Beta. Classic Beta was so fun for a month or two because every streamer was on the same server, and it was so much cross-pollination and cross-content, and there was like a storyline and drama and story arcs between who's doing what. It was super fun, and so that was kind of the goal on the quote streamer server on Fairlina, but no one really followed through. And like me personally, that was my goal, and I kind of found like I'm just with the way I play WoW, I'm personally more introverted than I thought I was. I like to kind of do my own thing in WoW. Like I love farming Mard on 18 hours a day. I love the slave pen leveling meta, even though I think it's like bad meta and kind of bad for the game. I would change it if I could, but for my personal fun, I love doing slave pens. It's awesome. I love grinding mobs for 10 hours and just kind of do my own thing. But you're definitely right. I think one thing that keeps Classic or TBC fresh are these events people can look forward to. I know I wasn't affiliated with the CDL, the dual tournaments, and I'm really not the biggest fan of Classic PvP either. But I think stuff like the CDL and even your hardcore leveling tournaments, stuff like that is really, really good because it gives people something to look forward to, and you see some of your favorite streamers in the same place casting the same event or competing in the same event. One thing I really want to do going into TBC is I want to host 5-man dungeon leveling tournaments, or 5-man heroic speedrun tournaments, where you have people from EU and NA go into the same heroic at the same time and do a tournament, and they race each other, like kind of MDI style. I think that'd be, and have people like you guys cast the event or compete yourselves. That would be so fun. That'd be so badass, and that sounds awesome. So, and there's obviously huge potential for arena competitions and dual competitions and more hardcore leveling. I'm sure you guys are planning. There's a lot that can go on, and I think to varying degrees, one big failure of myself and also a lot of other content creators was our lack of cross content and fostering events like this. And obviously, Kargoz, like, you carried your fucking weight. Like, you did a great job. But I look back on myself as a streamer through Classic. I wish I had done a lot more content or events with other people.
Bro, that hits me pretty hard, man. It's hard to get a read on it when you look at other creators. Like, it's hard to know why, some people don't want to collab or they're doing their own thing. You don't exactly know, right? I do love collaboration. I don't really find myself that interesting, so I love just collaborating with other people, and it kind of does take a village, So, I mean, going into TBC, maybe we can do some more of that stuff. It's the people, man. It's the people. What's up now?
Yeah, I actually kind of hope that Blizzard doesn't do their own esports version of TBC Arena. I would much prefer them let the community run their own stuff. So it's a weird example I'm gonna go with here, but you look at viewership for retail esport events, AWC and the MDI, and they get a fraction of the viewership that Asmon Gold's transmog tournaments have. For whatever reason, people find Asmon Gold's transmog tournaments more interesting than professional World of Warcraft events. Mm-hmm. And so there's something there that the personality of the biggest WoW streamer is more interesting than the professionalism of these esport events. And so I think there's something that to be learned there, that as a community, it's more important for us to have interesting people leading interesting things than it is to be esports necessarily. So I think you can say the same thing with your hardcore stuff, right? Like before Classic, nobody even, like maybe somebody thought that this could be something, but you've kind of proven that you can create a community that's close, cohesive, and grow it to be something that is a thing in the community that didn't previously exist. Mm-hmm. And it had nothing to do with Blizzard. It just had to do with you guys. And there's people who have more viewership now on Twitch because of the hardcore stuff, right? So there's growth that can happen there just from community run stuff. And so I'd much rather see Blizzard stay out of the way, and just give us the tools to do it, right? You gave us war games, that's a great start. But like, give us the tools to do it and let us run it and stay out, right? Like, I'd much rather see, like, there was the Naxxramas speedrunning thing. That was cool. That was really cool that somebody decided to put some money behind something, get it officially organized, get real casters behind it, and do that. That's something I've wanted to see. Like, a dream of mine has been, like, a world tour of raids in Classic. Like, everybody starts at noon, and you have to clear all the raid content, and whoever clears all the raid content first wins.
Yeah, that might be the future. Imagine if Blizzard just threw a couple grand or something towards those type of events, because a lot of times you need that incentive, right? Like if they did carve out a little bit and say, look, community, you can do, Staysafe, we're going to give you 10 grand to do heroic dungeon invitational. And I think that'd be worth it for them too, man. It would just get more people hype about the game, more people interested in the dungeons, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I would love to see it if like Progress decided to do like a 20-man MC at the same time they were doing a 20-man Zul'Gurub, right? In order to like kill the last bosses first. Like as a viewer, I would find that content really interesting. Even though it's not the most professional or the most well put together, I would still find it interesting to watch how these best guilds are taking this challenge in a different way.
Would there be a way to
that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Pit guilds against each other? Like not in a mean-spirited way. Would there be a way to like get it so it was like a team, like you're either on team apes or you're on team this, and like you're like it's like fight night style, you're rooting for them, they go in and they speed run at the same time or something, shit like that, bro.
If I had all the tools to like start it, I would have some PTR type server where the entire world can be on the same server at the same time, make it PvE so you can't grief and that kind of stuff. I would prefer no world buffs, but if you wanted to do like you get one set of world buffs or whatever, and then say start at this time, like everybody starts at this time, you can't do your first pull until this time, but you can start wherever you want. And then just like having people being able to drop into the different Twitch streams and have casters on top of it, and it's like a probably 4-hour event, and that sounds like a great afternoon.
Hell yeah, let's make it happen, brother.
When you said no shit talking, I was like, wait, in my brain, what if there was shit talking? What if we had like a WWE style, just like smackdown, fuck your guild, brother, stuff like that.
That
Zolpi turns heel and
so huge. Imagine you get Mytos talking some shit towards another raid leader or whatever, and vice versa, and it becomes like
it wouldn't take much to get Mytos going, but
oh, man. His chat is crazy.
You get some Mayweather Pacquiao, or who is it, a Khabib McGregor type fight night style type. Anyway, that would be sick. But
and anytime a raid kills an end boss, you just like cut to like some Salve Dali clip of him dancing or something like that. I don't know.
Yep, that's on us, boys. We got to make it happen though. But yeah, guys, a lot of great conversation. Let's finish on future plans. Like maybe you could share with the people where to find you guys. I mean, I think unless you're actually a hermit, you probably know where Staysafe's at. But let's finish with like future plans. What are your future plans for TBC? What do you hope to accomplish? You know, what are your goals? Let's start with you, Crix.
Say it again. Sorry, I was responding to somebody.
Oh no, just future plans for TBC. What are you looking forward to most? Where you know, what are your
the rating.
goals?
Rating is my favorite thing to look forward to, and then arena. Raid first, arena second, probably. We're going to world for trying to go for world first every raid tier. Building the guild up. I like a lot of hype for me for classic was like the pre-launch, you know, like finding the guild and getting the people there and like recruiting and all that. Like the couple months before classic was pretty fun to me, and then the launch as well. So I'm excited to see it, man.
Dude, you've got to feel really confident watching some of these top classic vanilla guilds wipe on Megtherodon for 4 hours. You've got to feel good, dude. You're strong going into it.
It did feel good. Not gonna lie. I'm not a humble man. We know this. It felt good.
Crix keeps it at 100, man.
I'm not a humble dude, bro. It felt good. It did. But I know they're good players. I'm not saying they're extremely good players. You know, we've done it a lot, and I think that's where it's gonna help out. So it's really interesting to see. You know, I don't know if we're gonna get first for anything, but I know that we're gonna put our blood, sweat, tears, and fucking life into it to try the best that we can. You know what I mean? And we're NA guild too. How many NA guilds are in world races in classic? You know?
Yeah.
So like, if anything, if we can't make it, at least we can make the NA look good, and that's the whole point.
But yeah, brother, Crix is pumping on YouTube guides all the time too. If you don't follow him on YouTube, you totally should. He's streaming at twitch.tv/CrixGaming_. Can't forget the underscore. You're gonna get that ended. What about you, Nano? What are your goals for TBC, man? What guild are you playing in? What server? What are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, so I play. My character name is Cousy, Cousy. I'm with Scuba Cops on Netherwind. Planning to raid and PvP, like continue the classic journey with my guilds. Raid every week, do the best we can. We're going. We try hard. We're a pretty good guild, but we never have pushed for like world first or speed running, whatever. Come phase 2 of classic, when we get the real 25-man content out, we're gonna start pushing a little harder. So in terms of the speed running stuff, so that's where we're headed for the raid stuff. PvP, I'm gonna play it. I'm not like trying to push Glad necessarily, but I'm a warlock, so if I find a good druid, I guess I can get there. Yeah, that's kind of the goal for TBC for me, is just continue to play, hang out with my friends, and push myself to be the best.
Hell yeah, man. And you just started a YouTube channel as well. If you throw the YouTube channel in our chat, I'll throw it in the chats as well. Throw this man
Sure.
a sub over there. What about you, Staysafe? I'm curious, man. What are your plans, your ambitions for TBC? Where are you playing? What server? Guild?
You know, I went into Classic WoW with a super min-max hardcore approach, and we did that for a long time. And what I found was, I think way fewer people on Twitch and YouTube, fewer people cared about that than I thought I thought they would. And so I think it actually, to a certain degree, made my content less fun to watch, because I was min-maxing so much. I think it wasn't as interesting to watch as I thought it would be. So my goal is to try to have way more fun streams and entertain more people and have a great time. That's my goal.
It's a hell of a goal. I that resonates with me a lot as well, man. I found myself in a similar position. I didn't even stream much on launch. I built it up for months and months. The game came out. I'm stressed when I should be having fun. I'm anxious. I'm literally playing on a PvP server, always worried about getting sniped. I power leveled another character up so I could have a mage to follow me around to like protect me. I was like, it kind of brought the worst out of me, man. And people just kind of want to chill with you. You know, it's not that serious. They don't really necessarily care if you're gonna be in the sweatiest guild ever. So I took that.
Just said, oh, go ahead, sorry.
What's up, bro?
Yeah, I don't know how you guys like stay safe. You've been grinding Kargoz, you too, but like you guys have been grinding the classic for a long time, and like I had plans to stream classic, and then I have a job in the family, and then as soon as I sat down on my computer, I just couldn't summon the willpower to press like start streaming on OBS. It's just like I want to play WoW as an escape from the rest of my normal world, right? And so content creating on Twitch, especially where you have to be like live and on and interesting in order to keep viewership. And I'm a competitive guy, so if I press stream and I have 2 people in my stream the entire time, like that demotivates me. So I don't want to have to worry about entertaining people instead of just playing my game that I love. And that's kind of where I'm at. Although I did start this YouTube channel because I'm an opinionated guy, and my guild is probably tired of being the only people who hear my opinion, so I might as well throw them up on the YouTube channel, and maybe somebody will click on it. But
good opinions.
Yeah. What do you guys? Don't ask. Oh, go ahead. Are we gonna say something? I got a question for you guys. I'll wait till you're ready, though.
No, go ahead.
What do you guys think about the queues, man? You think the queues gonna be as nasty as Classic? Login queues, fresh?
Oh, login queues. I don't know. Have you followed the drama with what game is it? Path of Exile, where the company gave priority to streamers. I think they should do that. They just do that, man. Let the streamers.
Yeah,
but then we won't do a level with the rest of our group. Slaypins, never mind.
I think they're going to be more aggressive with layering than they were on the Classic launch. I also think that players have done a decent job of spreading themselves out from servers now that we have, I don't know, the 40 or some servers that we have now instead of the 3 PvP servers they initially launched with or announced for Classic. So I think that players have spread out more, although if you're still on the mega servers like Whitemane and Faralina, you're probably going to be hit with queues. But I think for the most part, most players are not going to experience the same queue level with TBC as they did for Classic. At least I certainly hope not, because I am not interested in Google Desktop watching my queues while I sleep again.
Yeah, I think they're just going to kick the layering 100-fold and just try to call it a day. I think that's the expectation. I think they're also going to try to offer free server transfers to lower pop servers. No one's going to take them. Like, no one does that, but I think they'll try, and they're just going to have it be super layered, right? I think that's the solution to it.
Yep.
Yeah, man. For me, I'm similar to you, Staysafe. I want to have a lot of fun. I want to be more consistent with streaming. They kind of go hand in hand, though. I want to do hardcore. I want to seize the opportunity for once in my life and truly follow through with it, right? Like, let's be good TBC ambassadors. Let's do events. Let's get some hype going, some community, all that stuff. You know, I don't think I quite got there with Classic. I don't think I quite got there, and I want to do it this time with TBC. So,
I want to see a hardcore heroic Shattered Halls.
Ooh.
Hardcore heroic Shattered Halls. Well, okay. In Classic WoW, we just got to the tip of the iceberg of experiencing endgame content at 61 life death is elite. We lost one hardcore character forever. St. Jamin, rest in peace. He actually deleted his character. He died in the first pull. The first pull of Stratholme, he died. And we all made a blood pact that he really would delete, and he did delete. And I will say, the content becomes omega hard if you have one life, for sure, to the point that you don't even want to do endgame content. But it's a totally untapped thing that would make good content, probably. We always dreamed of doing a hardcore UBRS. Maybe some people will do it in TBC. All right.
The hardcore stuff is the best shit in the world for anybody that doesn't know, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see that. These events that we're gonna do in TBC that Kargoz and I, we already talked about. I can't wait to do all those, bro. It's gonna be so much fun. The casting for stuff, the arena tournaments, the speed running heroic tournaments, everything that we can do is good. We have to make. We have a long time during these phases. We have to make a lot of fun content in between those times. You know what I mean?
Yep. 100%. Well, we're towards the end of it, boys. We're gonna be spamming out their links. I do want to say, it's great to be here with you guys. Stay safe, man. Like, I just remember back at the private server people. I remember when Payo had single-digit viewers, and he was just running around with this hysterical laugh, ganking people. I remember just XVII streaming. He got banned on Twitch, streaming his ZGs on YouTube, and it's just amazing to me to see all like these random P server people who are still who kind of either blew up or they're still in the scene. You recognize them. It's insane, dude. I just look back on it.
It's good the way it turned out, right? I think that every classic WoW streamer that has made it, whoever you want to define that, is someone that has been around for a long time and that really cares about the game. So that says a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's trippy, man.
Yeah, I was actually super excited, like even from like pre-classic launch going on Classic Cast, right, with Staysafe and XVII and Tips. You guys like created that thing and had all kinds of dreams of what's going to come in the future. And I think that like it may not have turned out exactly what you dreamed it would be like, but it's probably as good as you could have hoped. Looking back, I mean, it's only been 2 years, right? But like how different is your life 2 years now than that? Like, how is it now than it was 2 years ago? And probably couldn't have imagined you'd get us this far. And like,
yeah, totally.
and like, Kargoz, you've been pumping on this for years as well. Like, you've been around for a long time, and like, the next phase of TBC, like the people who end up, like the cream does rise to the top. Is kind of my point here. You put in the work, you put in the effort, you figure out what your content is, and you just keep on pumping it, and it'll come out in the wash.
Yeah, man, it's been playing since your server, brother. I mean, Nos, how many years has it been since Nos? What, half a decade, more? I mean,
yeah, it shut down 5 years ago.
You know, a lot of us are like becoming fathers. Stay safe. You're having a kid. I'm having a kid this summer. Tips already had. It's just like, it's been enough time that people have have gone to the next stage in life almost, and we've been still doing this shit. It's crazy to me, you know. We probably look back at some of those old videos we did back then, and we probably actually look younger. You know, like it's at that stage right now. It just kind of cracks me up looking back on it.
I do. My first kid was born the weekend of AV release on Nost, and I was in the hospital watching my baby while my wife finally slept, running with my laptop keyboard. I didn't have a mouse. I was in AV while I watched my newborn daughter, like, next to me sleep for the first night.
That was your first kid?
That was my first kid. Yeah. So almost 6 years ago now. Yeah, she'll be 6 in July.
You have been a busy man, Nano. Holy smokes.
Yes.
And your wife busy.
Yeah. I've had a good time, like verifiably 3 times.
Yeah,
there you go.
In 6 years.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. Please, if you enjoyed this content, for all of you watching, can you just please double check real quick, chat? If you're still with us, type something in the chat if you're live. Double check that you're following and subscribe to all these people. That's really the only gesture of support you can make it, that you can do to support the show and make it worth these people's times. So let me put Nano's YouTube in there. You know where to find Crix. Stay safe. Just double check real quick. You might think you're subbed or followed, but you might. You never know. You might not.
Hey, thanks for watching, guys. It was really good. It was great.
Oh, way fun.
You have that YouTube, Nano? I still can't find it, bro. You put it.
Yeah.
Right here. Boom, bam, baby.
Yep, there you go. Post it in your chat.
Posted it in the chat. Okay, you posted directly in the chat. Gotcha, guys. Yeah, make sure you double check that, guys. We're gonna send you off to another friend of the channel. We are gonna send you off to Brother Def Camp. Say hi to Def Camp for me, guys. Until next time, it was Dark Portal 17. Take it easy.